Oh, man. Y'all knew I was going to talk about this. Y'all definitely knew I was going to talk about this because I have been discussing this and hoping for this for a year now. I've definitely been preaching it. So, teams have been calling up the Atlanta Falcons inquiring about wide receiver Julio Jones. Why, you may ask? Well, everybody actually knows about the brutal cap situation Atlanta is currently going through. If they don't get that in order, they will not be able to pay their upcoming 2021 draft class. So something needs to happen to help relieve their cap space. And Julio Jones could be the clear answer to that. If they were able to trade him, they will be able to clear enough cap space to sign their 2021 draft class. So that's why teams are hitting up the Falcons right now, trying to see if they can get some sort of deal, some sort of trade going on regarding Julio Jones. Now, there are several teams that have already reached out, and to be honest, I don't care about those several teams. I only care about one team, Baltimore. Y'all better be one of those teams reaching out. Let me tell you this right now. I have been preaching for the Ravens to trade for Julio Jones for over a year now. I have been begging them to trade for Julio Jones for over a year now. This is the opportunity. It's right here. Now, most people will be like, I don't really see them trading Julio Jones, which again can still be a possibility. However, the Falcons are not in a good situation cap-wise. They're at a disadvantage right now. So, if they want to be able to pay the 2021 draft class, trading Julio would be a simple solution. Not to mention, if they trade him, they could easily go and get Kyle Pitts to try and replace him. It'll suck to lose Julio, but you can get a receiver in this draft to replace him. Another young guy, you can put him there alongside Ridley, and you guys just focus on continuing to develop those guys and do it that way. So we'll see if the Falcons are willing to bite. Now, no trade or deal can actually come into fruition until after June 1st due to cap reasons. But teams are already starting to hit up the Falcons regarding this. So, yeah, definitely. We'll see how this goes. Baltimore, you better be one of those teams, man. You have to be one of those teams. I've been wishing for the Ravens to trade for Julio for such a long time now. Please be one of those teams that reaches out to them. We're one of the teams that actually have the pieces to pull this off. We've got the pieces to pull this off and potentially get Julio Jones. Now, the Falcons here are at a disadvantage. Everybody knows about their terrible cap situation, and time isn't really on their side. So they're not going to be able to ask for nearly as much as they would want to ask regarding Julio. So it's not like you can see them getting like a first round pick, a second round pick, and then a player. You don't really see something like that happening. I don't think they can get a first round pick from this. However, if somebody throws a first round pick at them, I don't think they're going to deny. I just don't see somebody throwing a first round pick knowing the situation the Falcons are dealing with. So the Falcons are just going to have to look for anybody that's willing to give them something good. And in the Ravens case, you've got the pieces. Now, because nothing can really go on regarding a trade situation until after June 1st, none of the picks from this upcoming draft that we're going to have this upcoming weekend, none of them get affected. If you're going to trade for Julio, it's going to have to be with your 2022 picks. So that's great news for the Ravens because we have a lot of plans with these picks. And having to trade them for Julio would suck, but obviously nobody would be against that because, like, instead of drafting a receiver, you could just trade for Julio Jones. But no one's going to be against that. But luckily, these picks that they have will have no effect. They will not come into play regarding this Julio Jones situation. If you're going to trade for him, you're going to have to use your 2022 picks, which I am completely fine with. You know, use some of those picks and potentially another player. Maybe you use a second and a third round pick and a player to go, switch out or swap with that to get Julio Jones, whatever you got to do. I've heard some people say, man, give up a third and a fifth round pick and Miles Boykin and send him to the Falcons if you can. Yeah, most people are so done with Miles Boykin. But yeah, whatever the Ravens got to do, there are going to be a lot of teams aiming to try and get Julio Jones. The Ravens have to be at the top of it. They've got to offer the best deal, and they've got to be willing to give up as much as they possibly can to get this deal done. Because if you can somehow trade for Julio Jones and bring him to this team, you'll have Julio Jones, who could be your number one receiver. You'll have another veteran receiver in Sammy Watkins. You'll have your main guy, your main speedster in Hollywood Brown. and you'll have Mark Andrews. You put that together, honestly, you couldn't ask for a better core for Lamar Jackson. You honestly couldn't. You would have given him everything he needed. He'll finally have the amount of weapons he needs to really compete, and at that point, there's nothing else you could really ask the front office to do in terms of giving Lamar weapons. They would have given him what he needs. So if they could pull off this trade and get Julio Jones, man. And since this doesn't really affect this draft, they could really look to, focus on fixing those needs. Now, regarding the upcoming draft, honestly, I'm pretty sure the Ravens are going to, use one of those first-round draft picks and trade down to get a second-round pick because we do not have a second-round pick. And DeCosta loves his second-round picks. So they may trade down to get a second and possibly another third or something like that, or a fifth. They may be looking to get extra draft picks, but they will most likely trade down that 31st overall draft pick down to the second round to get, that one as well as potentially another pick because we love to collect picks. But if we were just to assume that they decide to play the field and they don't trade down, they still got 2 first-round picks. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't see the Ravens using any first-round pick for a receiver this upcoming draft. If they have one, they will utilize it on either an offensive lineman or an edge rusher. If they use both, well, that's simple. You can get an offensive lineman and an edge rusher. I do not believe the Ravens will address the receiving position until the second round. If they were to trade down to get a second-round pick, they'll use that second-round pick to get a receiver. If they choose to stay put and use their 2 first-round picks, then in the third round, they'll pick up a receiver. That's just how I think it's going to be regarding the receiving position because this is a draft that's filled with receiving talent. So you're going to get a quality receiver no matter what. So with the Ravens staying put, if they could do well on this draft, help fix the offensive line and the pass rush, and somehow they're able to trade for Julio Jones, we'll be good to go. We'll be set. We will be set, no question. And they'll probably draft a receiver as well, so it would definitely be nice. So, yeah, this would do wonders for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens squad if they can find a way to trade for Julio Jones. Now, this is something that we'll be slowly keeping track of, but nothing's going to really, come into light until June, or at least as we're approaching June. We're not going to really be hearing a lot of stories regarding this situation. First of all, we're not even 100% sure the Falcons are willing to trade Julio Jones. Right now, they're just listening to offers. For all we know, they may come out and say, we're not trading Julio Jones. And they'll figure out the cap situation another way. Maybe they'll trade another player away. I don't know. But if they actually are willing to trade for him, Ravens got to be on top of it. Now, if they were if the Falcons were to actually agree to trade him because they understand the cap situation they're in, can I see the Ravens getting him? Yeah, I think it's a possibility. Do they have the pieces? Oh, certainly they have the pieces to do it. Am I 100% hoping and praying they pull this off? Yes. But do I see them pulling it off? I don't know. I'm iffy about that. They have the pieces. They could definitely pull it off. But I'm not 100% sure they can actually end up getting Julio Jones. Now, trading Julio Jones is going to leave a lot of dead money that, we're going to have to deal with. But, at the end of the day, you can reconstruct his contract and figure that situation out. And honestly, you've kind of got the cap space to prepare for this. You really do. What do we have? $15 million in cap space. You've got the cap space to somewhat deal with the situation and figure it out. No matter what you have to deal with regarding this, trading for Julio Jones is the answer, man. No matter what you've got to deal with afterwards, it will be fine. You will manage. So I hope the Ravens are looking to get Julio Jones. I hope the Falcons are willing to trade Julio Jones. We'll just have to see how it goes, We don't exactly know what's going to happen regarding this situation, if the Falcons are even willing to trade for him in the first place. But we'll just see what happens, man. We'll just see what happens. This is something that, we'll just have to be keeping track of in the month of May. And as we get closer to that June 1st date, we'll see what happens, if any updates come up regarding this situation. Again, I'm not 100% sure the Falcons are willing to trade, Julio, or if they actually are looking to trade Julio and they agree with this. But all we know right now is the teams have called them up inquiring about Julio Jones. So, hopefully the Falcons agree to it. Hopefully the Ravens are one of those teams that are in the front running to try and trade for this guy. And hopefully we can get a trade going because, again, you use a draft, you fix the offensive line, you get a piece there, you help aid the pass rush, potentially sign a receiver in the third round, and then you go and trade for Julio Jones, honestly, this team will be set. We'll be good to go, you know. At this point, it'll probably look like a Super Bowl bust type of situation if you really look at it, because you'll be a contending team. You're already a contending team now. Adding Julio Jones should be able to get you to exactly where you want to get. Because now you'll have an offense where Julio Jones will be your number one receiver. You'll have another veteran receiver in Sammy Watkins. You'll have your main guy in Hollywood Brown, your speedster, your deep threat. And then you'll have Mark Andrews over the middle as that security blanket, that great tight end. You'll have everything you need on the offense. We would be ready to go if we were to get Julio Jones. At that point, front office has done everything they can to get weapons around Lamar Jackson. Now it would be time for Lamar and these guys to get the job done. But again, we're thinking too far ahead. I would love Julio Jones to be here. I would love for the Ravens to trade him. But again, this is a situation that we're not sure yet. So at least we know there are talks about Julio Jones being traded, but we don't know how the Falcons feel about it. We don't know if they're actually willing to trade for him. And we don't even know if the Ravens are one of those teams discussing it, or if they plan to discuss it, or if they plan to even make a deal or an offer. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But with that being said, that is all I got, and I'm out of here, man. Peace!